The next stitch I'm going to demonstrate is the slip stitch. This one, when completed, looks nearly invisible. I use this a lot when I'm trying to close up a seam that is usually like a lining, because the other side of the garment's in the way. I cannot get it underneath a sewing machine. To go ahead and do this, you'll start off with 2 of your 3x8 inch pieces. And you will need an iron, because you're going to need to fold in and iron about 5/8 of an inch. If you need to, use your seam guide in order to check that. I'm not sure where there we go. There it is. So the seam guide, slide it on up to the 5/8 mark. And then when you lay that on here, you are checking that this edge to the folded edge is 5/8 of an inch, and it looks like I was pretty close. I will put a nice little press on here. Turn down that steam so I don't burn myself. And I will need to press the other piece as well. Again, make sure you've got a 5/8 inch seam allowance in doing so. You just want the practice of being able to actually do the intended seam allowances. Your surface can get pretty hot. Alright, so this is one in which I would be closing these 2 edges up. And being able to close that. Where I cannot get to the fabric, where I can see it like that, where our last type of stitch was able to do. Now to do this, I actually fold back and fold out these, put these 2 edges up to each other, and kind of matching my ends. And here you would typically want the knee or the knot to sort of be buried a little bit back behind all of that folded edge. So see, it would be back in here. Now then, I'm trying to do this through the video camera. I'm going to slip my needle from one folded edge to the other, and the slip part happens under that folded edge. There we go. At first you might take a little bit longer stitches, but when you get going, you don't want to take too long ones. You pull it tight so that you can barely even see a seam or see the thread right there. Now normally I would be using thread that matches my fabric, so it's even harder to see. For our purposes, though, I am using a contrasting thread so you can see what it is I'm doing. And again, I pull that tight, and I pulled it right off the end of my needle, so I can just go right back in here. Oops. Thread my needle back up. If I had any mistakes, I could take my needle off the end and undo my stitches, and then put the needle right back on and get back to sewing again. And then I go back and forth from one edge, from one folded edge to the other. Now this sample piece, it wants to wrap around the bottom corner. Let me do a couple more. So one folded edge, I'm slipping the needle under that fold. Now to the opposite folded edge. And the objective here is to not be able to see any of these stitches. Now then, you would actually go ahead and do the whole piece, but here you can see that now the 2 edges are getting sewn together. I'm kind of pulling on that so that you can see that. I would actually want my stitches to kind of be a little bit tighter, not enough to really pucker anything, but that it holds really well. And that's how you would close up a seam right in here if you cannot get to the back side of the fabric. But when I flip it back and look at it this direction, you can see it looks just like the running stitch. You are doing the running stitch, you're just doing it by slipping the needle underneath the folded edge because you cannot get to the back side of the fabric. One of your projects, the pillow project for this week, the last step after filling your pillow with a bunch of stuffing, you will have to slip stitch it closed at the top. That's it.